and the confidence in the youth. A group of, just to give you a background about the JNTUH Alumni Association to the new viewers out there and to also our speakers, a group of JNTUH alumni from USA and India and JNTUH administration worked together during the COVID-19 to create a framework and structure to establish the JNTUH alumni global chapters. The first overseas chapter is set up in USA and launched on November 15, 2020 by the Chancellor of JNTUH, Honorable Governor of Telangana State, Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, and in-charge Vice Chancellor, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. Friends, Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University was established in Hyderabad on 2nd October 1972 as the first ever technological university in India. So next year we'll be celebrating 50 years of relentless service to the society at large, and JNT University was restructured into 4 different universities, namely JNT University Hyderabad, JNT University Anantapur, JNT University Kakinada, and Jawaharlal Nehru Fine Arts University by the government of Andhra Pradesh. The current JNTUH Hyderabad has 8 constituent colleges and over 270 affiliated colleges. Close to over 100,000 students graduate on a yearly basis, and so far over close to 2 million students graduated with JNTUH degrees and around the world right now, and they're well settled overseas, holding prominent positions. So far, there was no formal JNTUH alumni global chapters to bring all of them together so that we could use their strength to increase the quality of instructions as well as the kind of recognition JNTUH needs globally. That's what we are trying to bring this alumni together to promote the brand of JNTUH. The initial focus will be to establish the operations of the USA chapter and gradually extend other regions of the world. So we have defined clearly 10 objectives. Number 1, to promote exchange programs for students, scientists, and distinguished scholars of JNTUH between the United States of America and India, as well as other countries. Number 2, to provide support and guidance to elevate the brand image of JNTUH and to raise endowment fund. Number 3, to provide effective and seamless communication and networking for the JNTUH alumni. Number 4, to provide common services to JNTUH alumni to achieve their professional and personal goals. Number 5, to organize periodic JNTUH alumni educational and professional webinars and conferences either independently or in cooperation with other organizations. That's exactly what we are doing today. Number 6, to provide access to capital to foster research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And later in the program, Dr. Shankaran will share how we recently conducted and launched a JNTUH Ventures J1 program, and he will elaborate on that. And number 7, to embrace diversity and inclusion in serving the JNTUH alumni across the nation, addressing mainly the issues faced by them in mainstream society. Number 8, to organize annual conferences, national and regional level, to promote JNTUH culture and empower the alumni to accomplish the objectives of the JNTUH Alumni Association. Number 9, to recognize distinguished alumni, administrators, faculty, and students of JNTUH for their accomplishments and services. Finally, number 10, to provide humanitarian support during natural calamities and pandemics like what we are going through. And JNTUH has stepped up to provide oxygen concentrators, PPE kits, and ambulances to the needy during this pandemic. Really commend the alumni for stepping up to serve the society during this pandemic. So even in spite of all of this, we have a lot of things that we are need to support, and we are looking for active leadership. Since we have a lot of them around the world, we would like to request the JNTUH alumni to join us to promote the objectives that we have listed, and a lot of opportunity for the leadership to serve not only in US but around the world. So with this, I would like to welcome all of you to this August gathering, and especially to the distinguished speakers today who are going to provide the insights into how do we be happy in this society, what we're going through, and also how do we excel in life. I think I would like to thank Farhana Vora, who is going to be our first speaker, and also Dr. Tracy Bower for joining us, and I'm excited and looking forward to hear from them. Thank you so much, and welcome you all again.
Thank you, Dr. Hari, for that wonderful overview of our objectives as well as outlining why we are here and the importance of today's event. And again, it's my honor and privilege to get into the next segment where we invite our keynote speakers to present their words of wisdom. So without further ado, let me welcome Kumar Rani to introduce our first keynote speaker, Ms. Farhana Vora.
Thank you, Praveen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining today. It's my privilege to introduce Ms. Farhana Vora, and today for our first speaker. She is an entrepreneur and she is a business strategist, wellness coach. That is very important at our age right now, and we need to know what is that we can do keep our good health. And she is also pioneered set up a high level jewelry brand in Mumbai, and she is a positive transformation and mindset coach. That's really needed for anybody in addition to education. And she's also an MBA from in MBA marketing. She was an ex-professor in KC College, Mumbai, and also she was an ex-professor in Xavier in Mumbai. And she also organized several workshops, which with her talent at Babson Global Advisory Board and Emirates Steel in Abu Dhabi, MMK College, Medical Guild, Mahindra Group, etc. Named a lot of them. And really, with her talent, we welcome Ms. Farhana to deliver her presentation. Thank you, Ms. Farhana. You are on mute. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rani. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It's completely my pleasure to be on this platform. So I'm going to go good morning, good afternoon, good evening. But my favorite greeting of all is Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste to all of you. It's my soul sees your soul. Pleasure to be here. And yes, we are going to be talking about wellness. And there is no way I can start a conversation on wellness without a referral to what we have been through in the last 2 years. The last 2 years has been the most challenging for humanity, for the generation in the last 100 years. We collectively have gone through a very difficult time. But we are all here and to be positive, to be resilient, and to strive forward. The mindset towards feeling good and well-being has been on our topics on our minds today more than ever. So even for those that were not invested in the wellness space, I think there is nobody today that can shy away from understanding the importance of how amazing being in a good well-being space is today. So wellness is not only about being physically well, it's about mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, your energy. And I can actually go on and on and on. I am a positive psych coach, a mindset leader, and that is the space that I am operating from. So what we are going to be talking about today is to lead life in a more mindful manner, to be more emotionally intelligent. I love the topic of emotional intelligence, but in the paucity of time, I may not be able to get too much into it, but that is a topic that really makes us flourish in our lives if we are emotionally intelligent. And the other thing is developing the positive intelligence in us. I love Martin Seligman, who is a positive psychologist coach, and I completely follow him. I've been certified by him. My simple concept is our thoughts create our reality. So what do I really mean by that? It means I can choose my reality. In those choices lies my power. So now, without further ado, kindly keep all the distractive objects that we constantly bombarding our life. Share this space mindfully with me, and I hope to create some light bulb moments for all of you. So welcome to Thrive Through Change. Bear with me. I'm just going to be sharing my PPT. Okay, welcome to Thrive Through Change. This is a favorite topic of mine I've delivered this workshop successfully to almost 20,000 plus people. And after that, I have stopped counting. It's really a fabulous workshop. It's powerful, but I have just delivering a session out here for 20 minutes. So welcome to our session. So change is constant. We've heard this terminology when all of us were growing up. We need to change. But have we ever really truly understood what it meant till probably the last 2 years? How important it is to be able to change. And yet you cannot spell change without, you cannot spell challenge without change. So if you have to counter the challenges in our life, we have to have the ability to change. So how do we adapt to change? By being agile, both physically and mentally and emotionally. And today, more than ever, it is considered extremely important in our life to be able to adapt to these challenging times. So where does this all happen? Where is all of this drama happening? So it's happening in our mind, and we must learn to improvise, overcome, and adapt. And the mind is just like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets, the more it expands. And as we go to the gym to develop our physical muscle, our mind too can be developed. And the one key factor here is how resilient we are. To develop our resilience. So are we born tough? Are we born Teflon strong? Yes and no. There are some people who are really born super strong. But I think to develop resilience is like building blocks. We can do it. We can become that strong. And once you're there, you need to keep on building on it. So it's not like, okay, I'm 6 feet tall, I'm going to remain there. Not at all. In fact, I compare it to a leaky tire. It's something that we know we need to do on a daily basis to build our resilience. So what is resilience? It's able to withstand, bounce back. We are always going to have stressful times in our life. And now we do understand that the world is constantly changing. The landscape is changing. So by building our resilience, we can remain strong in today's world. I teach self-compassion and kindness. And the first person that we tend to ignore is our own self. Be kinder to ourselves. Be more self-compassionate with yourself. As people who are compassionate to us themselves tend to be stronger, tend to be more resilient. Finally, it's how positive we are. The positive quotient makes us adapt to everything that's going around. So this is a question for all of you listeners. Where do we live? Where do you live? So listen to the question. I'm not asking for your address. Where is that supersonic station where we live? So I want it in the chat box. I'm going to be looking at the chat box. Can anybody tell us where we live? Okay, I can't see the chat box for some reason. Maybe somebody can share that with me. Not able to see the chat box here.
It should be at the bottom of your screen. It should be...
Okay, I see it.
We live in hope.
Thoughts,
we live in hope.
Thoughts. We live in hope. Absolutely. We live in our thoughts. We live in paradise. But I'm going to actually culminate this into something else, which will encompass everything that you are really saying. Where we all live, that supersonic station, is we live in our mind. This is where the whole drama unfolds. So, you know, I always like to liken this in a very simple thing. Everything that's happening out there is happening out there. But first, it's playing out in my mind. How many of you agree with that? So I want a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How many of you agree that we first live in our mind? Up, down. Okay, I see Mr. Kumar's participation. Yes, we live in our mind. So before I go on, I want you to do something. And this is really serious business. I want you on the count of 3 to shout, I am amazing. So you may think I will not hear you, but I'm very intuitive. I will know if you have shouted. So it's 1, 2, and 3.
I am amazing.
Amazing.
I am amazing.
I am amazing. How did that make you feel when you shouted that? Did it make you break into a smile? This is something what we deny ourselves on a constant basis. We never acknowledge, or we seldom acknowledge how amazing we are. We are all doing our best in our spaces, in our life. But we tend to acknowledge either our spouses, our family, our kids. We know how important that is. So step back, say, I am amazing a few more times to yourself. This is how we are born. We are born all happy souls. This is how we are born. Everybody's happy. And even if they are crying, they are going to get their attention. But over time, something happens. This is what happens. We tend to be more judgmental. I call them saboteurs. We get to be controlling. People are controlling us. We get to realize that we are sharing space with the rest of the world. And we want to conform. There is peer pressure. There is all of those things that are happening in our life. And all of that makes us a more duller version of our true potential to be our amazing self. So, are we born happy? Are we born the way we are? Well, 50% is in our genes, according to Ms. Sonia Lubrensky, and tons of research done that are you born happy? 50% in our genes, 10% in our lifestyle choices. Now, the fact that I'm sharing Zoom with you and we have a cup of tea or coffee with us, I think our lifestyle and our life circumstances is sorted. The 40% is in our choices. Our choices. What is happening with our life? My choice of how I want to choose my life. What is the actions I want to take? So this is where I come in, to be able to make the right choices to lead a better life for yourself. Everybody knows Dr. Joseph Murphy. So I'm picking up authors which I tend to believe that are world famous. Dr. Joseph Murphy said, we live in a conscious and a subconscious space. We operate in that 10% that you see above the water. That is considered our conscious operative space. But I say that the subconscious is what is constantly driving our lives forward. So we have conscious, subconscious, awake, sleeping, surface, deep soul. And all of this drama that happens is happening in that unconscious, subconscious space. We think we are operating from the conscious mind. So we need to dig a little deeper on how we can feel better. So how we think, how do I think? How do you think? Where is all of this influence coming from? Why are we, and 7 billion people, right? Each one of us have a unique fingerprint. So what makes us different? A culmination of things. It's our childhood influences, it's the families we are born into, their dogmas, their traditions, all of that. Then it's the life experiences that we have. You go into a JNTU, you have a fabulous experience. How do you take that experience back home? So these are belief systems, and then they go into our thoughts, beliefs, actions, behavior. So what is the person really seeing? They're only seeing our actions and our behavior. So there's so much happening in there. That is where I like to address. The word, the Pygmalion effect. This is so interesting. Dr. Robert Rosenthal wanted to find out whether kids could be different if they were given the right nurturing. So he teamed up with Miss Jameson in a school, and this was with 3rd and 4th graders, really young kids, to see, does the way somebody think of you think of me, of change the fact of how I perceive myself. So a short experiment was conducted there. They told the teacher of the school, of the class, that there are some outperforming geniuses in your class. They shared the names, but told the teacher, you cannot tell the child or give them any extra attention. So the kids were tested, the 30 kids were tested on all the parameters that was there. A year later, those couple of kids that were told to be geniuses, told to the teacher not to give them any extra attention, all outperformed. So the fact here I'm trying to draw your attention is, even in the subconscious way, the way the teacher acted with those kids, maybe she listened more. Maybe when the hand was raised and a wrong answer was given, a more subtle way of correcting was given. So that's the Pygmalion effect that we are all having. So the world outside is constantly affecting us. How do we keep ourselves safe from it? How do we take the positive only? I am a coach, which I completely love Louise Hay. So I'm a teacher trainer with Louise Hay. And the couple of things that I feel that I would like to discuss here. Number one, we are all responsible for our experiences. Now, some people in my workshop says, how is that possible? Well, let's look at it this way. Most of us have been cut, hurt, had an accident. We have gone through something where we've needed to go to the hospital. I'm taking a very basic example. There is no way that you can avoid the doctor. But what we are feeling at that point, with the cut, with the hurt, with the break, is that memory that will be etched in our mind. That is the experience. So coming to what we are going through today with COVID, the experience will remain with us more than the actual ground reality of COVID. So how do we protect ourselves out there? This is the outside world. It's constantly going to function on its own steam. How I allow the outside world to get into my internal world. The filters I create is the strength I keep to myself to protect myself. I love giving one simple quote. The only organ that needs protection is your heart with your rib cage. So protect your emotions. Don't let every negative thing bombard into your life. So those are the things where you build your resilience. Our thoughts create our reality. Everything that's happening in my life is first happening in that supersonic station of the mind. That is creating my reality. Are my thoughts serving me well? We have approximately 40 to 60,000 thoughts. I have no idea how scientists have come up with the figure, but you can Google it. Now, understand how much of that is positive, how much is negative, how much is creating better lives for us. So if we are aware of our mind, of our thoughts, that is where we can bring control to ourselves. So I liken it to a very simple thing. My thoughts are like planting seeds into the subconscious. It's like a fertile mental garden. If I plant the seeds of positivity, what am I going to reap? I'm going to reap positive thoughts, positive beliefs, and then finally positive actions. So that is how our thoughts are creating our reality. All of you are very learned, very experienced, but sometimes these aha moments of just bringing your attention to something, living more mindfully is what I'm attempting to do out here. It's only a thought. Can a thought be changed? Oh my, if it's a negative thought, it's not so easy. It's not so easy at all. It is tough, but it's not impossible. I love a quote by Viktor Frankl. He's a Holocaust survivor who wrote a memoir about his experiences and his thoughts. He called this the last of the human freedom. to able to choose your thoughts and your attitude in any given circumstance. So a negative thought, one thought is like a drop of water. You can, scrub it off the table. But if you keep on having negative thoughts after negative thoughts, whether it's COVID, whether it's insecurity, whether it's anxiety, it can soon create a nasty puddle. And I've seen people can drown into that. So it's important to actually go back to the source, to go back to your mind, to go back to a thought. That is what I teach. How do you essentially change, rewire the NLP tactics of rechanging the way we are customized to think? Can the thought be changed? No. But if you are aware, you can change it. A simple thing that I'd like to do is show you how you can break a habit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a very simple exercise. It's just the way I clap. This is how I clap. Can I have everybody's attention here? I clap here and I hold my hand here. I clasp it like that. 1, 2, 3. Now I have my left hand, my left finger dominant. Can you do it on the count of 3? Everybody, please. 1, 2, 3. My left finger is dominant. Now I'm going to request everybody to bring awareness and have the next finger dominant. Whatever the next finger is for you. For me, it's my left hand. So I'm going to clap, I'm going to hold, and I'm going to make the right finger dominant. Small awareness, living mindfully. Is it difficult? Maybe a little bit, but with thought, you can do it. And all of you are amazing spaces, so you can change your life by just being able to be aware of how our thinking is. When we resolve negative emotions, we free ourselves. There's a beautiful quote in Sanskrit. When we forgive, we untie the knots that are keeping us bound. When we forgive, we untie, maybe everybody can mute themselves because there's a slight disturbance. We free ourselves to welcome a positive future. So forgiveness is huge if we want to lead a better life. Finally, like I said in the beginning, how many times do we really acknowledge ourselves? How many times do you say, I have done a really good job. I have been a really good person. I've been a good partner, a good father, a good mother. When we really love ourselves for everything that we are giving in the world, without approval, without seeking approval, that's when our life works. That's when you have a flourishing life. So just to bring your attention back again, that thoughts create feelings. Feelings create behavior, behavior create action. And what the world is seeing is only the way we are acting and behaving. I don't want you to think of the color red. I don't want any of you to think of the color red. Not at all. No red at all. How many of you thought of the color red? Can I have a thumbs up, thumbs down, something? Quickly. Okay, you thought of color red. What about the rest? You can put it in the chat box. Up, down, down. Very good, Dr. Hari. Didn't think of the color red. What about the rest of them? Okay, I don't see everybody. Up, down. Who thought of the color red? Up, down. Okay. Now, why is it so difficult when somebody says do not? Our mind just goes there. The first do not makes us do it. And for the people who did not think of the color red, you have super control on your mind. So please keep doing that. Fantastic. But there is many, many examples out here. So the one example that I'd really like to share with the color red is there was Dr. Richard Wiseman who wanted to check that are people born lucky? Or is there something like not being so lucky? Similar to, are people born happy or are people born sad? So, it's like the cup half full, half empty. While I say it's your cup, you can always refill it. So he conducted this experiment. And he had this group of kids that came in and he said, who thinks they are very lucky? And they went and sat on the left side of the room. Who thinks they're not very lucky? And they went and sat on the other side of the room. He gave out newspapers to all of them equally. And he said, whoever tells me how many advertisements are there in the newspaper is going to win a prize. Guess how much time did the lucky lot take? 10 seconds. They put their hands up in 10 seconds and got a prize. While the not so lucky took almost 1.5 minutes. What was the difference here? On the second page, there was a large notice that said, there are 42 advertisements in this newspaper. So again, I'm re-bringing your thought into everything. Our life is determined with how we think. If I think I'm lucky, I will attract lucky. If I think I'm good, I will attract good. So when we are in the space of COVID, we are flooded with so much of stuff that's going on. Everybody has struggled in the last 1.5 years, but we need to believe, we need to trust life. I love the concept of trust life. In fact, I have a book releasing next year on trust life. When you trust life, you live stronger. It's a fallacy when we say we are in control. We were never in control. It was just a fallacy. It is now that we have realized how much lack of control we have. The only control I have is resilience, is strength, is emotional positive intelligence that I bring myself. So can my reality change with the way I think? Tell me, can my reality change? Well, even if I can't change my reality, I can certainly have a better ride of life. I can certainly lead a more happier life. Finally, the reality may actually be the same. We may have had to struggle for 2 years with COVID and Corona, but my reality on a constant basis was positive. So that kept me in a positive space constantly. How do I build my mental resilience? It's a very small chart out here. I love to talk about the left side of it. So you have to be mindful of your thoughts. You need to be able to change, put things in perspectives. So these are belief systems that I tackle when you put things into perspectives. I like giving the example of an ABCD. It means adversity, belief, consequence, disputation. We tend to always jump to the worst case scenario, dispute it. If it's happened to your neighbor, it's not going to happen to you. Check your attitude, build good relationship. The number one key in life is really relationships, social connectivity, and the rest you all can read for yourselves, paucity of time. I'm going to also give you the last example, very interesting example done by Dr. Kurt Reiter. He did this kind of brutal, inhuman experiment in the 1950s. He's from Harvard. He placed rats into a water and he wanted to test how long can the rats swim. Well, guess, they lasted for a few minutes and he pulled them out. He dried them out, he gave them something to eat. And then after some time when they were rested, he put them back in the water. Now it's the interesting factor. How long do you think they now lasted? So a lot of times I've heard 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour. No, they lasted for 60 hours because they believed they could be rescued. So it's always there. If I believe it's possible, it's possible. If I believe it's not, I've already lost the battle in my mind. These are the various workshops we do. I'm just sharing them with you. I love the honoring boundaries one. It's on relationships. I love inner wellness. Well, I love them all, but that's what I do. This is the research from books and studies that I have put together this session on. These are the various associates. We keep delivering different workshops. This is my contact details. I'd love you all to stay connected. I blog every Monday. So if you go into my website, you will receive my blog every Monday. I have the Global Life series where I have these interesting conversations with speakers from all over the world. It's on my live Instagram and sometimes on a Zoom call when I have psychiatrists, psychologists, people that, we are 2-3 people, not possible on Instagram. Please get into my Meraki and follow me on Instagram. You will be invited out there. And now to finally go once again to end it, because you have the amazing Dr. Tracy Brower coming up. On the count of 3, I will leave you with my famous, I am amazing.
Amazing.
Praveen, can you unmute everybody so I can hear this, please?
Yeah, I think everybody can unmute themselves. Yeah, everybody's free to unmute.
Okay, so I want it on the count of 3. I am amazing.
Amazing.
I am amazing.
Amazing. I am
I
amazing.
am amazing.
Amazing.
Perfect. So how did it make you feel when you shouted, I am amazing? I see a lot of people smiling out there. And to me, that is the key. We need to be strong. We need to be strong for ourselves. You know that famous, when the masks are dropped in the flight, you first save yourself, right? We need to be strong. We need to be resilient. We need to look after ourselves. So thank you so much. Namaste again. Thank you for inviting me out here. I hope everybody has enjoyed this session and look forward to always being connected to your group.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Farhana Vora, for a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful presentation on wellness and a lot of tips that we've heard that we can all take away to make our lives much, much better. Not only our personal lives, but also our professional lives. So I do welcome Mr. Barkat Salam to thank our speaker.
Good morning, Farhana and the team. Really, I am amazing. So worthwhile. You packed up so many things in it. It looks like you gave a prednisone shot to this team today. Stunning presentation. Thank you again. It was an immense pleasure listening to you. Really mesmerizing. If I say it was impressive, it will be an understatement. We all learned new elements today to enrich our lives. At minimum, we can take the right choices to make. Actions is in behavior. It's nurturing that you talked about. And no negative things. Try to filter it. And it
Salamji, I think you went on mute by accident. I think, can you unmute? I don't know what happened.
okay, there you go.
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you now.
I was about to conclude to say thank you to Farhana and the team, and also Praveen, just burning midnight oil of putting this together. Thank you, guys. It's back to you, Praveen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, thank you, Mr. Salamji, for a wonderful thanking opportunity of the speaker. Now let's get the questions going. We do have a few in the Zoom chat, so let me present one by one. So Dr. Shankaran, please go ahead.
Sure. Sorry, I was searching for the mute button. Thank you so much, Ms. Farhana Vora, for that excellent, inspiring talk. I had a question for you. Positive thoughts, that's always very good. Now, my question is about the negative thoughts. You said that it's it's not very easy to change, right? So what techniques have you found to be successful to overcome negative thoughts? And how do I help someone who's having negative thoughts?
So negative thoughts is something that sometimes can become so much of habit forming You know, it's so difficult to really, because if it's there for a long time, the one thing would be, again, to go to the key, to ask that person, you know, to be aware of why are you having the thought. End of the day, when we have emotions, it's not about controlling our emotions, it's about managing our emotions. And that there lies the key. So even with our thought, you cannot banish your negative thought, but maybe the intensity can become less. Also, we tend to live sometimes in a very misconception of things. So when you are dealing with somebody, it's more of a conversation style. If there is a therapist required, yes. If there is a coach required, yes. But if you're dealing with as a friend, please just ask, why are you having it? And you will need to dig a lot deeper, because you're not going to be able to get an answer so easily. Not because the person doesn't want to share it with you. They may not even be aware of it. Sometimes you're not aware of why we feel that. We may be feeling something at this moment, and we are responding to something that happened 5 days ago. So all of those things, when you're taking out a negative thought, is to be aware where it's come from. What is the root? Why are you feeling that?
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. It has to come from themselves, from inside. They have to say, I'm amazing, so that they feel better. I think so. Thank you so very much.
Right. Also, another technique which I actually want to just expand on, in case you're dealing with youth, okay? Young people tend to disguise their feelings a lot, okay? If they are young, they're not really able to be vocalizing what they are feeling. So a lot of patience and love. When you envelop people with kindness and love, that's all they sometimes need. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. I've seen a few people, youngsters, right? You rightly said guilt. How do they overcome guilt? If you don't mind answering, going over it.
You know, go back to the same thing, that we are doing our best we can. Are you telling me as a positive coach doesn't feel guilt, fear, anxiety? Of course I do. I'm as human as the next person. Is my relationships always perfect? No, it's not. It's a work in progress. Absolutely. So with guilt is a terrible, depleting emotion. Because what can you do with guilt? It's already happened. You've done something wrong, or that person's done something wrong. How do you overcome that? It is by accepting, by loving yourself, acknowledging that you've really done your best. And if you have hurt somebody in the bargain, even if you've done it knowingly, so I'm playing the devil's advocate out here. I'm even saying if you've done it knowingly, even then, maybe that's the space we were in at that point. Okay, we have been bullied in school. Do you think that bully in school has remained a bully in life? No, I'm sure he's changed. I'm sure he's changed. So he's forgiven himself. It's only when they don't forgive themselves that they remain bullies for life. I mean, sorry, my point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great. The next, I think there's a comment from Mr. Abraham Paul. Did you want to expand on that? Did you have a question, or just want to share a comment?
Basically, I just wanted to know how do you manage positive thoughts?
There is no way Abraham can be asking me this question. He's the most positive person I've ever met. So, yeah, you know, Abraham, how did you manage positive thoughts? Is that what you asked me?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Okay. So, you know, when we wake up in the morning, how many times have we just, you know, been in that space of saying, I've enjoyed the serenity and the stillness of the night, the sweetness of sleep. When we have that feeling of enjoyment, of feeling so beautiful of the sleep, even if it's only 4 hours, and then waking up to a new day, to waking up to the new challenges, also knowing that with every sunrise, there is going to be a sunset. And with every sunset, there's going to be a sunrise. So here I'm going to liken a very simple thing to you. This is life. There are waves up and down, up and down. We never question when we are on the high, and we can see this amazing horizon. We are all basking in that fun space of being happy. But it's when the wave is low that we must believe that horizon still exist. That horizon's not gone anywhere. It's just the ride of life, the ups and downs of life. So to manage positive thoughts is to know, to trust life, to be in gratitude. The one key factor that I feel changes the dynamics of my life is gratitude. The minute we are in gratitude, what gets removed? Fear. You remove fear, you remove anxiety. Once I say thank you for everything, I'm not operating from a space of fear. Once you're in gratitude, you're operating from a place of love, kindness, acknowledgement. Have I answered your question, Abraham?
You're right. I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Farhana, for that elaborate explanation. Thank you, Abraham, for introducing Farhana to this session. It is exciting. And Praveen, with your permission, I have one question. Just want to let you know, all the viewers, Abraham is instrumental in bringing Farhana to this session in a short notice. One more time, I would like to thank him. Farhana, you mentioned about the 50% is through genetics and 40% is based on how we behave ourselves, and 10% is through circumstances. I'd like to bring one quotation or the one explanation from Swami Vivekananda. So he narrates very clearly about this with a comparison of a raindrop falling from the sky. And majority of the drops fall into ocean because 70% of the planet is covered with ocean, and they merge as one of the many. There's no identity of that drop. And out of 7.8 billion people, many of them are like that. And if you watch on a fine rainy day, the drop falls onto a leaf and shines like a pearl. And a lot of people are trying to do their best to shine by being grateful or being charitable or whatever way they can, feel good about themselves, and they automatically shine by their deeds. And some of the drops fall into a gutter and they smell like gutter. That's what the 10% is by circumstances, maybe where you are in an inner city, in a bad company, and that's what possibly can influence it. And 40%, as you rightly said, it's in our control whom we want to associate with and how do we want to develop our character. I think you really scientifically explained the same thing what Swami Vivekananda told a century ago. So I think it's very good to hear from you, that reinforcing my belief that we can transform ourselves to that 40% margin we have, and 10% if we can't avoid, but still we could consciously manage ourselves to not to get into that kind of gutter kind of thing and smell like a gutter. I think it's amazing to hear from you. And I'm a strong believer of Dr. Kalam. He always said, dream big, aim and aim high in life, and work towards achieving your goals in life. I think positive reinforcement is the key. And again, being grateful is the key, and being charitable is the key. And there's a study done by University of Buffalo in New York, and the people who gave the most, they were happy and they lived the longest. I think if we can be charitable and if we can grateful, I think that will be the key behind being happy and being successful and being healthy as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we really appreciate, and we will be in touch for many other sessions that we are planning to do with other organizations as well. Thank you so much to Farhana and as well as Abraham for bringing her today's show. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to present. Thank you, Dr. Hari, for those comments and those insights. We do have two questions. Let me just combine them and ask in the interest of time, because we definitely want to stay on time. Can this be made part of a regular education program at a young age, because it's so important? And there's another question that says, if I think positively, am I making thoughts into a reality eventually? So can you somehow answer those two in a short window, if you could?
So is life a destination or a journey? You got to decide that. Do you want to have a good journey of life, or is it always based on the destination? Even if you do studies with people who won a lottery, their baseline of happiness comes back to where they were in 6 to 9 months. So positive thoughts, whether they get you what you want, at least your journey is positive. Do we every time think of something good? Does it happen? I think it really does. And at least it keeps me in a good place. We do attract what we seek. If I attract abundance, I'm going to get abundance in some form or the other. And the other lovely factor that I like Dr. Hari talking about, which I will quickly bring out here, is when the raindrop falls into the gutter, you can still bring a lotus out of it, which is one of the most prettiest flowers. So, you know, there are those spaces where we can continuously bring positivity and change our life through it. So in this prevailing space, and before I go away and, you know, it's over, I just want to add one more thing to the same question and in a little different way. Just how on our screens, we have the button on the right side, on our computer screens, we all addicted to, that has a small and a large. You minimize it or you maximize the screen. I urge all of you to maximize your life. Make your life larger. There is no point in remaining small. And what are we really fearful of? Those saber-toothed tigers that the, you know, the ancestor ran away from doesn't exist. All of the fear is all here. So we need to tackle our fears and anxieties. It's all out here. So maximize your life. There's no joy in living a small life. When we live strong, we live in gratitude, our life grows. That's it, Dr. Praveen. Mr. Praveen, I don't know if I answered it well, and I hope I did.
That's a fantastic. I see a lot of thumbs up, and there are some really, really good comments on YouTube Live as well. So once again, thank you so much, Ms. Farhana Vohra. Love you to stay back and enjoy the rest of the presentations as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again.
I'm right here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we will quickly move into the next segment. I do welcome our chair of JNTUH Ventures, J1, Dr. Shankaran Menon, and co-chair Barkat Salam, to give us a quick overview of our J1 event that we conducted last month. Please take it away. You're welcome to share your screen, Dr. Shankaran.
Thank you very much, Praveen, for that opportunity to give an overview of the J1 event that we had last month. So let me go ahead and share my presentation, if you would allow me to. So let me quickly go ahead and share my screen. So that's a picture of Mount Hood that I took some time back. So let me go ahead and show the presentation. Here it is. Are you able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you are calling in from. My name is Shankaran Menon, and I'm going to be presenting the quick J1 inaugural event update that we held on the 21st of August. So let me see if I can scroll through the next foil. So I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about the inaugural event that we had on 21st of August. I'd like to thank the core team and the executive team, which partnered to meticulously plan and execute the J1 inaugural event on the 21st of August. Now, this was planned almost 6 months back, sometime in January, February of this year, to actually coincide this J1 event along with the World Entrepreneurs Day. Right, since it is trying to match entrepreneurs with the venture capitalists, there's no better day other than World Entrepreneurs Day to hold this event. So a lot of meticulous planning went into it, and thanks to the core team as well as the executive team partnering together to plan and execute this event, and it went extremely well. The J1 core team went through all the proposals, vetted all of them from several entrepreneurs, and we reviewed and talked to the VCs, venture capitalists, to do the due diligence prior to the event, and we actually finalized 6 different proposals. And on the day of the event was presided by 2 eminent keynote speakers. The first keynote speaker was Honorable JNTUH Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Katta Narasimha Reddy, followed by a keynote speech by Mr. Vijay Rangineni, who's CEO of IT Investments from Telangana. And this event was held with lively interactions between the 3 VCs and 6 entrepreneurs. And there were topics spanning 6 different, very relevant domains. As you all know, electric vehicles with Tesla and many other cars. Electric vehicle is actually by 2030, India and other countries are going to be shifting over to electric cars from fossil fuel cars, which is actually very, very relevant for today's technology. So electric vehicles was one of the topics. The other was agro-tech, real estate, drones, IoT, as well as e-learning. Now, post the event, there were deal-making discussions which continued and which is moderated by the JVEN team on the various proposals which interested the venture capitalists. And now, what we are planning to do as part of JVEN team is to conduct these. It is actually matchmaking between the VCs and entrepreneurs. We'd like to conduct this on a regular basis. We were thinking that it would be most appropriate to have it in 4 to 6 months rather than more frequently or less frequently. So 4 to 6 months is what we are thinking to hold the next event. Now, in terms of objectives and next steps, JVEN team is thrilled that the inaugural event that was held on 21st of August actually furthered the mission and vision of the JNTUH Alumni Association by fulfilling its key innovation and incubation objectives, which we started with a year ago. And now the JVEN core team comprises of yours truly, that's myself, Shankaran Menon, followed by, along with a lot of help that we received from Salamji, Kumar Raniji, as well as Praveen Nidamoluji, who's actually our webinar chief. And we had JVEN support team, not only from United States, but also from India, Dr. Vijay Kumari ji and Sharda ji is from United States, and many others listed here. I don't want to go through every name, but the names are right there, along with the executive support from Dr. Hari Panapalli Swami, as well as Sudhakar ji. Now, looking into the future, we are actively seeking energetic and innovative leaders from the global JNTUH alumni to join the winning team. We'd like to continue holding such winning matchmaking sessions between the entrepreneurs as well as the venture capitalists. As you know, India is actually creating 3 unicorns almost every month. You must have heard about the new Freshworks company, which is actually went yesterday or day before yesterday, listed on NASDAQ, made immediate billionaires and millionaires. So lots of new ideas are coming out from India. So let us try and do the matchmaking to help the entrepreneurs to get their funding, seed funding, and to incubate and come up with innovative ideas to make them stronger and to start startups as well as to create new unicorns. And if you have, if you'd like to participate, please do contact the JVEN team or contact me. My email address is given here, or you can also go to jntuh.org and you can see our core team members and contact any of us. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much, Praveenji. I'm going to hand it back over to you. Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Shankaran, for that update. Just a quick question. If anybody has recommendations for entrepreneurs or venture capitalists, I know you put your email address there. I think one quick suggestion is to make sure that we also have this maybe a form that people can fill on the JNTUH website, something that we can probably collaborate on with the web team and make it happen. Any thoughts on that? We absolutely can do that, Praveenji. That's a great idea. That would be great. Yeah, thank you so much for that suggestion. Excellent. Are there any questions? Any other questions? Okay, so we will we'll certainly move to our next segment, which is inviting our next speaker. Dr. Brower said she has to step away for a second. So while, okay, there is Dr. Brower back. Awesome, perfect timing. So why don't I move to the next segment, which is inviting our second keynote speaker, Dr. Tracy Brower, who brings in a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience
here to our JNTUH alumni family. So without further ado, Anjan, could you please provide your introduction of our
Sure.
next keynote speaker?
Sure. Thanks. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. So now I would like to introduce Dr. Tracy Brower. She's a renowned and distinguished author and a sociologist studying mostly work-life fulfillment and happiness. And she has authored a couple of books. One is Bring Work to Life by Bringing Life to Work, which it is about the perspectives and alternative ways to consider and achieve work-life balance and more than that. And the latest book is Secrets of Happiness at Work. It's about the insights for joyful work and life and how to choose and create purpose fulfillment. And now she is an award-winning speaker and spoken in several numerous engagements and podcasts. Her work also featured in TEDx, Wall Street Journal, Fortune, and all over the world, like Globe and Mail in Canada, Inside HR Australia, etc., etc. And she is an executive advisor to the CODA Societies and MSU Master Industrial Mathematics Program. And she's a member of United Way, Cornet Global, and American Socialist Association, and etc. And she's a council member and advisor with the Design Museum Everywhere. And currently, she works as a principal with the Steelcase Applied Research and Consulting Group. And Tracy holds like a PhD in the sociology, Master of Management in the organization culture, and a Master of Corporate and Real Estate with the workplace specialization. She can be reached out in the LinkedIn, Twitter, Goodreads, Instagram, and her own website, tracybrower.com. With this, I would like to welcome Dr. Tracy Brower to this meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Introduction. Thanks to each of you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And oh my goodness, I've so appreciated all of the information so far. And Farhana, your messages are amazing and they are a perfect start to some of the discussion that we will have moving forward right now as well. It's just really terrific, the harmony that we all are in terms of our content and our messages. So really looking forward to our time together. Can you all see my screen all right? It looks to me like you can. Good. I'm seeing a thumbs up. That is terrific. So, you know, this is such an interesting time. I had a journalist say to me recently, really, Tracy, is this the time for us to be talking about happiness? I'm really not sure I'm there with you. And I actually think that this is such a perfect time when we are utterly disrupted, when the rug is pulled out from under us, we can think in new ways. I like to say that from the greatest disruptions come the greatest innovations. If things are kind of going along the way they always have, we may not have to dig as deep. We may not have to think differently. But when things are so disrupted, that is the moment when we need to say, I have got to do this differently. And so here's our moment for a bright future. This will be the most significant reinvention of work in our time. I research work because it is such a fundamental place that we express ourselves, express our talents, contribute to our communities. And beyond just work in kind of the traditional sense, this will be a reinvention in terms of society, in terms of our future, in terms of ourselves and our own thinking. So we have a moment to rethink, because through its absence, through the absence of normal, quote unquote, circumstances, we're thinking more consciously about who we are, what we do, why we do it, with whom we spend time, and how we prioritize our lives. And so that's why happiness is such a relevant topic today. So we will dig into a little bit more about happiness and be able to build on all the amazing information that Farhana shared with us. So it makes a lot of sense to start by thinking about where we are. And it's really fair if we have a moment of exhaustion. You all asked some questions about negative thoughts and how to manage those. And we want to focus on the positive. In addition, it's fair that we take a deep breath and kind of acknowledge where we've been. There was a beautiful study where a couple of different groups were looking to make significant lifestyle changes. And part of the group received cheerleading feedback. Rah, rah, you can do it, you can do it. The other half of the group received validating feedback. It's hard, but you'll get through. It is a challenge, but you can make a change. The group that received validating feedback was significantly more able to make more lifestyle changes. And so this validation, this moment to kind of acknowledge ourselves is a really important moment. So it's been really tough. Globally, we've had to be socially distanced and we want to be close. Our human nature is to be close, and that introduces cognitive dissonance. The intensity and duration and uncertainty has been such a big deal. I do a lot of studying of brain science and neurology. I'm not a neurologist by any means, but study it deeply. And one of the things that we crave is certainty, predictability, consistency. And this has been a time of utter uncertainty and ambiguity. And we tend to shy away from ambiguity, and that tends to introduce stress for us. And so we're climbing this mountain, getting through the pandemic, and we just think we've reached the peak and, oh, we're bumped back. We just think we're getting through it and, oh, not so much. And so that uncertainty, that duration, that up and down, that unexpected kind of future has been tough for us. The other thing that's been really interesting is that we've had to spend a lot more time at home. We haven't been able to get out as much. And if you look at the work-life literature over the years, it's always been about keeping work away, keeping work at bay, setting a boundary, making work stay at work. And it's interesting because we've seen a 180-degree shift. People are saying, you know, I love my people, I love my home, I love my cocoon, and I could use a little distance from it. So that's really fair too. Sometimes when we're able to kind of get out and go out to dinner, or get out and go to work, or get out and go to school, those things introduce a really healthy boundary. And so we need to rethink boundaries. And I love, Farhana, you were talking about a boundaries workshop. Our boundaries have become so blurred, and now is a moment when that has been introducing some exhaustion as well. And we've had new roles, right? Like we've had to wear more hats to help with learning, more hats to help with elder care, more hats to help with our loved ones, more hats to make dinner more often because we're not going out for dinner potentially. So those are some reasons that we are exhausted. And if you haven't been touched by any of this, I'm super impressed and I want to know your secret, but it's really reasonable that we're in a place where we can start and begin again. So here's a question for you all. You know, actually, I'm going to skip over these. I'm going to keep going. I love this. All great beginnings start in the dark when the moon greets you to a new day at midnight. It's a wonderful thing to think about where we can go and how the day will be brighter. And that positive message that we've just heard from Farhana is a perfect start to that. So the other pushback that I get when I talk about happiness is from business leaders who say, yeah, but happiness is really fluffy. It's really not a hard business concept, is it, Tracy? And I have to tell you, there is so much research on happiness. When we're happier, we are more physically healthy. That reduces healthcare costs in organizations. When we're happier, we tend to set bigger goals. We're focused on more learning. We're more likely to reach our goals. When we're happier, we tend to make better decisions. We tend to perform better. These are all based on scientific studies, and it's evidence-based information here. The other thing is that when we're happier, we tend to be more likely to stay with our current organization. And that is often because we feel more connected to our community and our colleagues in that organization. We tend to feel connected to the purpose of that organization when we're thinking bigger and outside of ourselves. When we're happier, we tend to be more likable, and that attracts to us, which is absolutely in concert with the previous discussions that we've had. You tend to attract to you when you're feeling happier and more positively. Here's something else that's really important, and that is the dynamic of spillover. When you are happy in your life outside of work, you tend to perceive that you're happier inside of work. So one of the things that we'll talk about is how we create the conditions for happiness. And one of the ways you can do that is by doing really wonderful and rewarding things outside of work. Volunteering at a soup kitchen, volunteering to build a new home for neighbors, volunteering to read to youth or impart your knowledge to others, whatever turns you on. Those might be bad examples, but whatever turns you on that you can add to the community outside of work often will help your perception of your positivity inside of work. The opposite is also true. When we're happy in our vocations, when we're happy with how we're contributing from a work standpoint, we tend to spill over into happiness in other parts of our work. This also relates at a country level. When countries' citizens report they are happier, that country has greater GDP, greater educational attainment, and more physical health. So there's something that's operating for us at a really systemic level in terms of happiness. So I think those are important places for us to acknowledge at the beginning that there's a business basis for happiness in addition to all the more important reasons for happiness, which have everything to do with our humanity. So here are a few things to know about happiness. Happiness ebbs and flows. I think sometimes we can be judgmental of ourselves. One of the things Farhana talked about was compassion with ourselves. And sometimes we can be a little judgy and we believe that, if we're not happy every minute all the time, we might not have been doing it right, or we might not be adequately happy and therefore we're not doing it well enough. In reality, happiness will ebb and flow. It's not always bonbons and butterflies. There will be ups and downs in terms of our happiness, and that's okay. We can still have an overall sense of joy and contentment. We can still have an overall sense of creating the conditions for happiness, even if we're not happy every single minute of every single day. The other thing to know is that we are utterly empowered to create our own happiness. I think we can have this myth of happiness that when all the conditions are right, then we shall be happy. It's like a silver platter, right? And you can kind of hear the ding as you take the top off of the silver platter. When all those conditions present themselves to us, then we shall be happy. In reality, we absolutely can be happy no matter what our circumstances. And I also always quote Viktor Frankl and his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that we have the ability to choose our thoughts, and that has an incredible effect on our outcomes and on other people. So we're empowered to create the conditions for our own happiness, and that is agency. I think we also have to focus on structure. We are also empowered to create the conditions which are more likely to contribute to others' happiness. Not that we're responsible for their happiness, but we are obligated in a really positive way toward our communities and doing our best for each other. Here's something that's so powerful, and that is, sociologically speaking, the number one way that we learn is through watching other people, listening to other people, experiencing other people. We are all models for others, whether we realize it or not. And that influence is really significant. How we show up, how we arrive, how we act, the choices that we make have an influence on the people around us and on our communities. And that is one of the ways that we're creating the conditions for happiness, not just for ourselves, but for others. I think another thing to think about is this idea of choices. We also have this myth that if we make just the right choices, we shall be happy. And if we're not happy all the time, maybe we've chosen badly. The truth is that any choice has both pros and cons. So you'll choose a job and there'll be things you love about that job and things that aren't your favorite. You will choose a place to live, a neighborhood or a region, and there'll be pros and cons with that. You'll choose a partner, and there may be things you adore about that partner, but if you're honest, there might be a few things that annoy you as well. That is really reality. All choices come with sets of conditions. And so part of happiness is aligning as much as possible with what you love to do and what you have to do, or what is most important to you about your choice and the majority of what that choice offers. In the book that I wrote called The Secrets to Happiness at Work, I have a little 2x2 diagram, because every good researcher has 2x2 diagrams somewhere in their life. And it really talks about what are the things that make you happy. What are the things that you have to do in your role? And the more there is alignment between those, the more you're at that upper right square of the 2x2, the better. So one of the ways you can think about creating the conditions for happiness is by thinking about your choices, realizing that no choice is perfect, and realizing that some choices may be more aligned than others with what you really prioritize. So those are some things to know about happiness. But this is probably the most important thing to know about happiness. And that is, it's the paradox of happiness. The more you are pursuing happiness for its own ends, the less you will be likely to accomplish it. I live really close to Lake Michigan, which is a giant, expansive body of water that feels more like an ocean because you can't see across it. And so we spend a lot of time at the beach, and we always have, even when our children were young. And I think this concept is like sand through your fingers. You know, you're on the beach and you're playing in the sand, or playing with your kids in the sand, or someone else's kids in the sand, and you can't hold it. It slips through your fingers. That is like the pursuit of happiness for its own ends. It doesn't work to pursue happiness for its own ends because it reminds you of all that you don't have. Otherwise, why would you be pursuing happiness? And it also focuses you on yourself. And actually, there's a correlation between more focus on others and the community and happiness. More myopic focus, more self-focus tends to be correlated with less happiness. So the alternative is to pursue the things that are conditions for happiness. Pursue the areas that are more likely to be correlated with happiness. And that is what we will talk about. So the idea here is don't pursue happiness for its own end, but do pursue the conditions for happiness, which we'll talk about in just a second. I love this. The best way to predict the future is to create it. This is our opportunity to create thoughts in our minds. I love your point, Farhana, about planting seeds, thoughts that become beliefs that translate into actions, and the Pygmalion effect, which is about how people believe about me and how I believe about myself and the impact of that. So here are the key ways to thrive in the future of work and to create the conditions for happiness. The first one is all about purpose. And we all talked a little bit earlier about dreaming big, and I absolutely believe it. Believe in yourself, believe in your influence, know that your impact is incredible, probably more so than you even realize. And I always like to say, dream small. I think sometimes we can put too much pressure on ourselves. Like, if I'm not solving world peace, if I'm not solving world hunger, then, am I really making an impact? What's my purpose with a capital P? I think sometimes we can put so much pressure on ourselves that we remove happiness. In reality, your purpose is to do what you do well, a little bit at a time. There's a wonderful concept called Ikigai, which is a Japanese term, which means your reason to wake up in the morning. And there's a wonderful story about a grandmother who lives with multiple generations. And she says that her reason to wake up in the morning is to make soup for her family. I love that, right? Like we can all just do the thing that we do well, and we are fulfilling purpose to the extent that we're contributing to our community. We all have an instinct to matter. There's a beautiful book called Transcend, which kind of re-understands the Maslow hierarchy. We all have an instinct to matter. And that has to do with line of sight. I understand how I affect you, affect him, affect her, affect them, and that line of sight matters. In addition, all work has dignity. No matter how big or small, quote unquote, we understand our contribution to be, it matters to the community. Gratitude is also something that we talked about in the first hour of our time together. Gratitude is significantly correlated with happiness. There's also a gene for gratitude, but gratitude is significantly influenced by your choices as well. This is gratitude not just for things. I drive a classic VW Bug and I adore driving that car around. More than a human should probably appreciate a car, but more important than the things that we appreciate are appreciating people and circumstances and our capabilities. When you are intentional about gratitude, you are reminding yourself of all that you have, and that is correlated with happiness. Waking up in the morning and thinking about what you're grateful for, going to sleep at night, thinking about what you're grateful for, making a list. That intentionality toward gratitude is utterly correlated with happiness. Enjoy the little things, for one day you will look back and realize they were the big things. As a recent empty nester, I'm here to tell you, this is so true. Another way to create the conditions for happiness is through connection. We are wired for connection. When we are connected with others, we have less incidence of morbidity and less incidence of mortality. We release a brain chemical called oxytocin, which helps us to feel happy and which reduces the effect of stress chemicals like adrenocorticotropin and cortisol. This is not just about everybody has to be an extrovert, because some of us are introverts as well. But this is about social fabric, social nurturance. This is about those fundamental connections and the fundamental responsibilities that we have to the community, which link us, which web us, which create a net of connection, which is absolutely correlated to happiness. So creating connections and giving generously in all kinds of ways are correlated with happiness. Performance is a big deal too. We want to contribute. And when you work hard, that is connected and correlated with happiness. Sweating, either literally or figuratively, is correlated with happiness. You have to think hard. You have to engage deeply. You realize all that you can accomplish, and you have new ways that you're adapting and new ways that you're learning. And finally, learning and stretch are correlated with happiness. You know, we all need time to relax and rejuvenate. We all want that time on our back porch, eating bonbons and reading our favorite book or sitting on a beach somewhere. Absolutely. And when we are stretching, when we're learning something new that engages our curiosity, when we are pushing ourselves in new ways, that is also correlated with happiness. So how do we create the conditions for happiness? We focus on purpose and our line of sight toward all that we contribute. We absolutely focus on things like gratitude, on creating connections and being generous with others, on performing to our best extent, and on learning and stretching. Those are the ways that we create the conditions for happiness. So it's amazing how a little tomorrow can make up for a whole lot of yesterday. So no matter where we are, no matter our circumstances, we want to bring a level of positivity. And this is a moment for a very bright future as we move forward and as we create the conditions for happiness. So thank you all. I appreciate your time. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Praveen, and we can take some questions.
Fantastic, Dr. Tracy Brower. It's been amazing to hear. I think it was a flood of information. I'm pretty sure everybody has to watch both, the speaker videos multiple times to really absorb the wisdom that has been showered on us. We're very, very lucky. So we do have a couple of questions. The first comes from Mr. Arnab. Please take it away. You may be on mute.
I was wondering, since what we just now spoke, and since we are a lot of logical people around engineers, we operate from the left brain and want to see how actionables and everything can be done for us. So if we could group them into 4 buckets, like say individually first, let's take care of our health, both physical as well as mental. Can we group them into them is what I'm asking Dr. Tracy. Then
Sorry,
I'm asking you, like suppose to the foundation, which I said right now, could we bucket them into like taking care of your individual health, both physical as well as mental, right? Mental, I mean, it could be, doing a yoga or something and getting more into the picture of trying to keep your consciousness up to date. 2, like I said, invest in relationship building. Invest relationship building. It doesn't mean that you have 20 or 500 Facebook friends. I'm just saying that maybe very few, maybe a handful, but very, very conscious kind of relationship where you value the relationship and build on it, right? Third one is, I was saying, enhance productivity, which you talked about in performance. I think results in performance. How would you increase productivity? Maybe you could take up a course, constant learning, like we are doing at this age also. I think at younger age, it becomes very important at workplace. But children start investing in digital enhancement of their knowledge, whether it is any course they take or to listen to your programs like you conducted webinars, right? And last, I said, giving back to the society. Can you, which you said, gratitude in some form? I'm saying even it could be, even, that element of happiness comes in even with trying to donate something to a beggar or trying to go into a big way and working somewhere in an NGO. It makes a lot of difference and it gives you a sense of elation and happiness. Can we bucket these things into this 4 heads is what I was asking.
Yes, I absolutely, I'm so in alignment with what you're saying. And I love a well-being model that is about physical and cognitive and emotional well-being. So you shared 4 buckets. I'm totally in alignment with your 4. And I like the one with kind of those 3 buckets as well. But I think that really the critical thing that we're saying is that happiness is all about kind of thinking holistically. And one of the things that gives me hope for the future is the extent to which we all are thinking more holistically. Like, one of the sad things that's true right now is that mental health issues have escalated globally. The bad news about that is that they have escalated because of all of the conditions of cognitive dissonance and disconnection. The good news is that potentially we have less stigma around mental health issues. We can talk more about it. Another trend, in addition to that, is that companies, leaders, colleagues are really paying more attention to a holistic model of well-being. And so I think your points are just spot on in terms of thinking about this, in terms of health, in terms of conscious relationships, in terms of our ability to be productive, our ability to really have a sense of gratitude and contribute to our communities. I think one of the linking concepts as well is that holistic sense of well-being. Another linking concept for me is about this broadening of perspective. Neurologically, when we're under stress or threat or pressure, physiologically and neurologically, our peripheral vision shrinks from 180 degrees to 30 degrees. Literally, our physical vision is more limited. And the reason for that is, you know, like when our ancestors were running away from the saber-toothed tiger, they were aiming for the tree where they could climb and protect themselves and their young. And so what happens when we're under that threat or pressure or stress or negative thinking, we tend to narrow in. And often a symptom of depression is that we feel more limited, more trapped. We feel very in ourselves. And so when we focus on broader issues, we open ourselves and we're more expansive in terms of our vision, both literally and figuratively, our perspective, and our ability to focus on others, to connect, to be intentional about deeper relationships, to be intentional about being productive and making a contribution to our community, to be intentional about how we're protecting our health, and to be intentional about the effects of giving back and making those contributions. All of those help open us, help expand our perspectives, and that absolutely contributes to our personal well-being and to the well-being of the broader team or organization or community. So I love what you're saying, and those 4 buckets are so meaningful in terms of how we are intentional and how we guide our intentionality toward happiness.
Great, thank you. There have been some good comments on YouTube Live as well. And thanking you for all the wonderful words of wisdom. So next question comes from Dr. Shankaran again. Go ahead, Shankaranji. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Brar. That was very good talk, very inspiring. I had a quick question, which is relevant to our current lives that are so entangled with work-life balance, right? What are the secrets of coming up with a work-life balance, right? There are lessons taught, classes given about coming up with a balance for work and life, but I haven't found a secret formula. I don't know if you have any. How do we compartmentalize tensions and stress at work environment and keep them separate from the happy home life? Any secrets?
Yeah, this is such a great question. One of the things that I talked about in my first book is that I think the concept of balance actually limits our ways of thinking about solutions. You know, there's this beautiful concept of linguistic determinism where the words that we use and how we describe something impact on the way that we can find solutions to that thing. And I think what balance does is it suggests that work and life are separate, or they're precarious, or we have to be careful that we, you know, can somehow shift between the two in order to reach equilibrium. In reality, work is part of a full life, and a really full life is one where we're expressing ourselves through our work. Work doesn't have to be perfect, but can absolutely be a source of joy. So I think first we can think about work-life navigation, or work-life integration, or work-life opportunities, or fulfillment. Like, I also think that balance isn't big enough. We can do more. We can find absolute fulfillment with work-life. That said, we do need to figure out how we can make sure that we have plenty of room for a full life and full work. And one of the things that you talk about is kind of this idea of compartmentalization. One of the things I know through my research is that people have different ways of doing that. Some people like a compartment that's more kind of clear, bright lines between work and life. I'm going to turn off my computer at a certain point in the day and I'm going to be done for the evening. Other people value more fluidity, like I might turn off early and then go to the soccer game with my family, and then I'm going to turn back on a little bit later. I think one of the things we can do is find what works for us in terms of that work-life navigation, regardless of comparing with others. The other thing I think that we can do in order to find that right boundary in terms of work-life fulfillment is to look at some of those negative things that happen and kind of understand them, embrace the fact that we're feeling that thing, and then be able to kind of move on from it. So there's that kind of balance between focusing on the present enough that we can make a difference and think about what those solutions are, and then focus on the future enough that we can kind of feel optimistically. And I like a model where you can think about in those negative points at work, here's another 2x2 for you with apologies, right? How much influence do I have over that thing? And how big a deal is that thing? So if it's a small thing, I've got tons of influence, that is something about which I should take action. If it's a big thing and I have little influence, it's something that I may want to make a choice about a different choices in my work. And so I think we want to think about what is that thing that has us challenged or struggling. How do we set that aside so we can focus on our personal life? And how do we also gauge our own impact and therefore gauge our own choices and actions? I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Thank you so very much. I was searching for the mute button. Thank you very much. That does make sense. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, there are a couple more questions coming. I'll be a little selfish and put on my audience hat and ask a question myself. In the corporate world, one thing that always fascinated me is across the world, across the 7+ billion that exists in the world, we all love living in democracies. I don't think anybody would question that or deny that. However, we actually work for aristocracies, meaning we don't elect our CEOs, we don't elect our C-level staff or even our managers. So we love to live in democracies, but we end up working in aristocracies where leadership picks the next level of leadership. This is a feudalistic kind of a model. I always observe, being in the middle management of a corporate world, that this causes significant amount of stress to the entire middle management structure. It's like a cat that's stuck between a mouse and a dog, right? It's trying to run away from a dog and trying to manage the run after the rats or mice at the bottom. So with your experience in coaching any of the corporate world, could you share some insights where you've had some success? And if, it's one thing where people give you lip service versus did you have any KPIs where you actually measured a way to create happiness in a corporate structure?
Yeah, absolutely. How do we create happiness in the corporate sector? And I'm right there with you. When I talk to leaders and do leadership sessions, I always say that middle management role is the hardest role because a lot of times you feel like you have less influence than others at higher levels in the organization, and you have more or as much responsibility. And so one of the things I think that we can all do as leaders, no matter what level we're in, even individual contributors are leaders to the extent that they influence others, is that we can think about influencing toward the systems in a culture that will matter most. And to me, part of that is making the business case for happiness, for engagement, for positive, respectful, valuing cultures. And so for me, part of that business case is all of this research that I shared. I have an article on Forbes.com that I published a few months ago called, it's like the business benefits of happiness. So that would be easy to find. I've got all the primary research in that article. So I think we can make a business case toward happiness. I also know that one of the things we can do in a corporate environment is create purpose for people. So being really clear about the broad purpose of the organization, but even more than that, going beyond and connecting people with that purpose. What is each person's connection to that purpose? If I'm working on a factory assembly line, I still have a connection to that purpose because I'm making a widget that goes into a crank, that goes into a hospital bed, that keeps a patient more healthy, as an example. Or I'm working in an accounting office at a university and I am helping to create the conditions for students to reach their dreams and educate themselves so they can reach new goals in their lives. Whatever the work is, it can be connected to the broader organizational purpose. So that's another piece that's critical in terms of creating happiness in the environment and something that every leader can have a role in. Another thing we know is correlated with happiness in a corporate environment is people feeling connected to their colleagues and people feeling a sense of connection with their leader. When leaders demonstrate more empathy, people report greater levels of mental health. When leaders are more present and accessible, people are happier because they feel that visibility, they feel that sense of recognition from leaders. I just produced an article or published an article Sunday night about empathy and how leaders can be more empathetic. And so that is a third way that we can really think about creating happiness in the organization, no matter what our leadership level. And that is to emphasize our relationships and value our relationships with each other, and to really be present and accessible and to really check in with people. Leaders don't have to be mental health experts, but just demonstrating attentiveness and being able to share with people corporate resources toward mental health can go a long way. So those are three ways that we can think about creating happiness in the corporate environment, no matter what our leadership level is.
All right, thank you for that wonderful insight. Next question comes from Dr. Hari. Please take it away.
Yeah, Dr. Tracy, first of all, thank you for joining us. And I would like to sincerely thank Swami, who nominated you for this session. It's not easy because of your busy schedule, but we really appreciate you joining us today. And as you know, this because of the pandemic, a lot of youth are very much depressed because their schools and colleges are not functional as intended, and their networking abilities when they are physically present versus taking the courses on Zoom, they are not really exploring their full potential to become the students. They are not really enjoying their life as a student life. And I went through personally for my own children. So what kind of message to reinforce their positivity in their minds that this is not the end of the world, this is a cloud that will pass and the sun will shine again? Can you enlighten our youth who are watching this show some positivity that they can deliver a lot more than what they are expected, and this is not a hindrance for exploring their potential in full strength?
Oh, you're speaking to my heart. We had a daughter graduate from college and a son graduate from high school in 2020. So they both got kind of blown up in that process. Our son is now a sophomore in college. It is really, really tough. One of the groups that has been most deleteriously affected through the pandemic from a mental health standpoint is our youth. And I think one of the things that we can reassure them about is that this really will pass. You know, one of the challenges of being young is that you can't look back over your life and say, oh, I haven't been through exactly this before, but I've been through other hard times. So one of the things we can do is reassure them with a sense of history and a sense of continuity. There have been really hard times over the years and over history, but we all have gotten through it. That's one thing we can do. There's some brilliant literature on this topic. There's an amazing book called The Great Influenza that looks at the social dynamics of the 1918 pandemic. Finds that many of the social dynamics were absolutely consistent. That gives me hope because it says, you know what, we got through it then, we'll get through it again. And the social dynamics are such that They're part of kind of a human pattern, and that human pattern will get us through. A third thing to share might be facts and data. The Roaring 20s were the period of the greatest growth, the greatest educational new attainment at the time, the greatest GDP at the time, coming out of that epidemic. And there are many people, many economists who are predicting that we will have a similar roar coming out of this. There's lots of prediction that the job opportunities will be significant for students coming out of colleges and universities. So that's a third thing we can do, is kind of share facts and data about what's coming. And I think a fourth thing that we can do for youth is to absolutely reach out and mentor. I think we can be really intentional about offering connections, making introductions to our colleagues so that we pave the way for youth. And I think we can reinforce, fifth, we can reinforce with youth just the idea of resilience. We humans are nothing if not adaptable, and their learning, their experience through this can be instructive to us. We can validate all the brightness of their learning and what we can learn from them. Resilience is three things. It's understanding the present condition, really deeply understanding it, not putting our heads in the sand. It's making sense of it. Like thinking about what it means for us in our current situation, our unique situation. And third, it's improvising, solving problems, adapting. And so when things are really tough, we can find our way through. And so I think those are the 5 ways that we could start to touch youth and really keep them close. I love the old book by Robert Fulghum. It was written in the early 90s. All I ever needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. And one of the things that he says is we should hold hands and stick together. Isn't that beautiful? It's just extraordinarily sophisticated. And I think we can do that with our youth as well, providing, creating, fostering that safety net and holding hands and sticking together with them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tracy, for that wonderful message to our youth. I appreciate it very much. Praveen, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tracy. And I think, Dr. Hari, it was a good reminder to thank Swami for bringing Dr. Tracy here. And we're missing Swami because he's traveling, he couldn't be here. We do have, I think we are kind of out of time, but
Praveen, may I ask you one question if you know other questions?
Yeah, if you can keep it short and sweet, then we can go for it.
Yeah, I think someone else asked a question, how do you balance work even after coming home or whatever? You tell me if it's right. I saw some people, many people throughout my career, that they balance somehow. The more work you have in the home, more responsibility at home, you have less work to do after the work hours. If you don't have anything to do, you get bored or whatever, you spend more time on the work. So it's up to the individual. How do you do after the work related work? There are some situations we do work weekends, we do work evenings, but not every day throughout the calendar year. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, absolutely. We want to find that time for ourselves, find that time for rejuvenation. There's that beautiful mantra that work expands to fit available time. So I think when we set that boundary, like, I'm going to start working out at X time today, or I'm going to go take a walk at X time today, that can somehow help because it puts that stopper, that gate on. And I think the other thing to be aware of is there's a beautiful book by Atul Gawande called Being Mortal. All his books are so amazing, but Being Mortal talks about how one of the worst things you can do is say to somebody, no, we don't need your help. We're good. We don't need your contribution. Our contributions to the community are such a way that we are fulfilled. So we want to find that right boundary, and we want to absolutely appreciate our opportunity to contribute through work and the fulfillment that can come through work. So it's kind of a both and. I love your question. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tracy.
Yeah, I think we're out of time. There are a couple more questions, but great comments also from YouTube. Thank you once again, Dr. Tracy Brower, for showering us with your wonderful pearls of wisdom, and Dr. Vora as well. So we'll move to the final segment at this point, and both of you eminent speakers are welcome to stay back. This is where we kind of interact with each other towards the end of the segment. So once again, thank you to Ms. Farhana Vora and Dr. Tracy Brower. This is incredible, and such a change from the previous webinars, where we focus on technology, management, leadership, more career-oriented versus more fulfilling and personal. So thank you once again. Okay, so let's move on to the next segment. If everybody can turn on their videos, we can have quick introductions of each other, and then we can wrap up in a timely manner. Okay, we see Wing Commander Harakula. Welcome. If you could quickly introduce yourself, which batch, and thank you for sharing some of your generous comments on chat as well about JVN.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Kamalakar, and I am from the third batch of our college. In those days, it was Nagarjuna Sagar Engineering College, which got merged into, which got evolved into JNTU College of Engineering, and of course now the university. And we had after Dr. Asthana and Professor Narasimhamurthy, we had reformatted our Alumni Association, and I happened to be the first president of that during almost 10 years back. And the great memories of the college and our teachers, and nice talking to you, nice meeting with you, and great speakers today. Learned a lot of things, and some of the initiatives I could see, and JVN and other things, and I'm very happy to be part of it, and being a member of your, though I am not living in USA, but as an alumnus of our great college, and we are together. I think I enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you very much. I live in Melbourne, and I got stuck in Hyderabad now because of pandemic. Almost 2 years I came back, and I'm still looking for a safe window from Hyderabad to Melbourne. That's it.
Kamalakar garu, where did you work in India before?
Pardon?
Where did you work in India before?
Oh, I was in the Indian Air Force. I was the chief engineer when I took voluntary retirement during Kargil War. Just after Kargil War, I left voluntarily from the Air Force after 25 years. I did my, after my engineering in 73, which continued for 6 years, Telangana agitation, 5 years original. And then I did my master's from Indian Institute of Science. And then, of course, now in Hyderabad, I do teach in 2 universities. One is our JNTU itself, but not in the JNTU proper. It is Human Resources Development Center of the University Grants Commission, where they train the university professors. So I train the professors. So that is one. And I also teach in Nalsar University of Law, where they have some air and space laws and air transportation management. I teach air transportation management. That's it.
Thank you. Because the reason I asked is because I worked with many wing commanders in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Balanagar.
Oh,
so I was just wondering, have you worked there or? So that's
no, I didn't work in HAL. I was throughout.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to our group, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing to hear from you, and please continue to join our webinars. We definitely
Sure.
appreciate your comments and your partnership. Also, to take us to another level, we could definitely use your experience.
Thank you so much. That is very kind of you.
Welcome to the group. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And across the YouTube live and here, we had close to about 70 people participate today, which is wonderful. And as the nature of the webinar, there'll be about 1,000 plus who will be watching this over the next week or two based on their convenience. So this is wonderful. So can we have Naveen, if you can get off mute and maybe introduce yourself. And Sahitya, I see S. Vasa. we can all do that. We can keep it short and sweet and wrap up.
Also, Praveen, if possible, wanted them to switch on their video so we can really see their face.
Absolutely. We want to see everybody who's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just joking back with Ms. Farhana's comment that, my wife may not always agree that I'm amazing, but I'm certified today, so there's no arguments.
By the way, Praveen, in most of my sessions and workshops, which are like 45 minutes or 1 hour at the minimum, I actually give a certificate of participation. So you can get one by the mail.
Oh, that's wonderful. So anybody wants to, come off your camera, or even if you don't want to, if you want to introduce yourself, otherwise we'll proceed to the word of thanks and the closing remarks.
Hi, Praveen. This is Naveen Vangari. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm basically from Hyderabad, and currently I'm staying in Texas. I'm a software engineer. So I got invitation from Hari, and so thank you so much. That's about me.
Welcome, Naveen. Welcome to the group.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a word about Dr. Naveen. He's a PhD candidate currently in JNTU, staying in Dallas currently, working for a company. He was also supposed to be one of the speakers today, but we already nominated 2 of them. Probably in the future, Dr. Naveen, we will invite you as a speaker. So Praveen will be in touch with you for the next upcoming sessions to plug you in appropriately. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Naveen. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, Vasa, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, first of all, let me thank you for all the organizers. It was a wonderful session. So I really liked the 2 speakers on some important topic today. I really appreciate that. Let me introduce myself. Probably I'm not sure how many of you recognize me. I know most of you on this call. So I'm Vasa Sugneshwara. So I'm from the branch of 1993 JNTU, from civil engineering actually. And then after that, then I have completed my MTech in REC Bhopal actually. And presently I am working as a senior manager EHS, Environment, Health and Safety in Johnson & Johnson, here based in India, in Mumbai itself. So I'm regularly part of this sessions actually. And Chakradhar, the president, being my one of my classmates, I mean, during engineering session, he was in printing technology. So I know Chakradhar very well. So that is how we have this connection actually. So thank you all of you for having this wonderful session. Keep continuing this great sessions, and I really appreciate the work what you are doing. Thank you.
Welcome to the group, Vasa.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, welcome. So Sahitya, you want to say a quick word? I know you have introduced yourself in the past. If you cannot, we understand. Okay, so let's proceed with closing remarks and word of thanks from our treasurer and secretary of the organization, Mr. Sudhakar Uppala. Please take it.
Thank you, Praveen. But before just I go with my word of thanks, I want Mr. Dr. Shankaran to give a quick word of thanks to our second speaker, Dr. Tracy, and then I will proceed with my word of thanks.
Thank you very much, Sudhakarji. How do I say thanks to Dr. Brower? It was such an inspirational, excellent talk. I don't know where to begin. I think I like your several tidbits that you've given us. From greatest disruption comes greatest innovations, right? How true. It's akin to necessity is the mother of invention, is what I have in mind. Now I'm going to remember this, the new mantra. And I like the idea of choices that you've given. If we are not happy, we've chosen badly. So we need to start thinking in the right way. Thank you very much. And we need to love our job. And I don't think I'm going to compartmentalize between the two. I'm going to spread it out and make sure that happiness is across, right? And And I think one of the questions that I had in mind, which you can answer later, or maybe I can email it to you, is the only country which has Ministry of Happiness is Bhutan, right? I wish, and wealth doesn't bring happiness, right? There is a minimum threshold of wealth that is required to be minimum happy, which is, I think, $60,000 in the United States. But again, that's debatable. Anything above that, even I don't think Elon Musk or even Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates are happy because of their wealth. I think the happiness is within, which is what you, as well as Dr. Farhana Vohra have mentioned. So it's amazing to hear from both of you. And to pursue the actions correlated with happiness is what I'm going to take away as the mantra that you mentioned. Resilience, solving problems, adapting, and the 5 ways that you mentioned, right? Thank you so very much. I'm in the process of reading Atul Gawande's book, Being Mortal, right? My son told me it's a great book. So he's been told to study in his medical school. So I said, I'm going to read that. I've not gotten to finish it. So thank you very much for reminding me on that. And I will continue my pursuit of reading that book. And I would like to say thank you so very much. And I will stay in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shankaran. Now it's my turn to go with a vote of thanks. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And this is another great session from JNTUH Alumni Association USA. This time, it is more about the happiness, mindfulness, attitude, empathy, conscious, subconscious, very interesting topics. And as some of you said, like we have been talking about the leadership, technology, and whatnot. It's because we are engineers, so we are all in that engineering mood. But this is the time we came out of that mood, and we are talking more about the happiness and mindfulness. And these are the topics we all need to know. These are the things we all need. So it's very apt, and we had really great speakers, and hopefully we'll have more such sessions in addition to the technology and leaderships. So thank you very much, Farhana Vohra, Thrive Through the Change, and how we live in our mind. And it was an amazing, amazing talk. And I think we all will remember the word amazing, including Praveen. So that was really an amazing presentation. And thank you, Dr. Shankaran, for giving a quick overview of what we did with the JVN. And all of you know this JVN. We did an excellent job under the leadership of Dr. Shankaran and supported by a few of the EC and Mr. Salam. So this is only the beginning, and we are really looking at really taking it to the next level and use the JNTUH as a forum to really have more entrepreneurs and VCs coming together and coming with more innovative ideas and implementing them. And the next one is the author, expert, Dr. Tracy Brower, The Secret of Happiness at Work. Maybe we want to call this Secret of Happiness at Work and Home, because with the technology, now there is no work and there is no home. It's all intertwined together, at least in the technology area. So, I mean, you are happy at home, happy at work, or be happy. So it's very interesting session, and really a lot of thought-provoking information. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation and coming here and providing a nice presentation for the secret of happiness at work. And I also thank Dr. Hari for his welcome address and giving an overview of the JNTUH Alumni Association. And I also thank Razu, Salam, Dr. Shankaran, Kumar Rani, all for their introduction and providing some insights about the organization. And Praveen, you did an excellent job organizing this event. And of course, you have been doing, and every webinar, it's becoming more and more mature. And the way it is done today, the way it has to be done. And thank you for really organizing this webinar and making it a great success. And finally, for all the attendees, thank you very much. And I saw several new alumni join this time, including Wing Commander Arkala, and I saw like Arnab Dev and few others, and Dr. Naveen. So we have a lot of newcomers this time, and we are hoping that to spread the message and have more and more people join the webinar, join the JNTUH Alumni Association. Let's all try to really reach out to more people and I wanted to really see like how we can fulfill the goals we have set up when the organization is formed. And we need the help and guidance and suggestions from people like you. And thank you very much for attending this. And thank you all. And we will again see you all in our next session. We'll be announcing soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar, for that wonderful overview. You didn't miss a heartbeat of what happened today. So it's fantastic. I want to close on two quick reminders. One, to our wonderful speakers who have actually stayed on to the end, both Ms. Farhana and Dr. Brower. We may approach you to continue to shower us with your wonderful pearls of wisdom. Maybe we can have a workshop style which is more interactive next time. We'll put some creative juices together and figure out how best to kind of make it more interactive, make it more exciting. So thank you once again, and also wanted to kind of call to action for JNTUH family to come together to join hands with us and definitely raise the bar and meet our 9 objectives that were laid out by Dr. Hari. Thank you once again for joining, spending your precious weekend with us. We'll come back again next month with more words of wisdom. Thank you all. Have a great week.
Praveen, there is one reminder for the upcoming event I would like to share with your permission. So the November 15th is the first inaugural session of the JNTUH Alumni Association. And this November 15th is coming very soon. And we would like to celebrate the anniversary of the US chapter. And we are trying to host an in-person meeting in New Jersey for all the alumni who can join us from no matter where they are. The Saturday, November 13th and 14th, Sunday, we are planning to meet in New Jersey. So we will have a save the date going out to all of you. Please block your calendars to meet in person to brainstorm and how do we take our organization, create a roadmap, and also define milestones and recruit leadership to achieve those milestones. That is the intent of meeting in person in November 13th and 14th, Saturday and Sunday in New Jersey. Please block your calendars, and our Secretary Sudhakar ji will be sending an invite to get you confirmed for attendance so that we can plan accordingly. Thank you.